Before Mr. Wealth became a financial guru, he was a successful entrepreneur, living in his cozy house and running a thriving business. He was used to stability and rarely thought about the global economy. One day, his daughter came home from school and asked a question. My friend lives in Yugoslavia. Why is $1 equal to 500 billion Yugoslavian dinars? Daddy, why, when we went on vacation, our money was exchanged for another currency, and the exchange rate was different? What is an exchange rate? Mr. Wealth realizes he can't give a simple answer and decides to figure it out to explain to his daughter. Determined to learn more, Mr. Wealth goes to the library and picks up books on economics. After a few hours of studying, he realizes that his knowledge is still not enough. By chance, he meets a sage who has been saving knowledge for 1,000 years and is ready to answer all his questions. The sage explains, imagine that money is apples. If a lot of people want to buy apples, the demand grows and their price rises accordingly. It's the same with currency. When a country's economy is strong and people trust it, its currency becomes more valuable. But if the economy is weak and people don't trust it, as in the case of hyperinflation in Yugoslavia, the currency loses its value. Once upon a time, money was directly linked to precious metals such as gold. This was called the gold standard. Under the gold standard, a country's currency was backed by a certain amount of gold. For example, the US dollar was once tied to a fixed amount of gold. This helped keep exchange rates stable because a country could not simply print more money without having more gold. Did it prevent governments from printing too much money? Absolutely. But as economies grew and world trade expanded, countries began to move away from the gold standard. It became increasingly difficult to store enough gold to back each unit of money, especially during wars and crises. By the 1970s, most countries had switched to a new system called fiat money. Fiat money is a currency that has value because the government says it does and people believe it. But if no one wants the money, its value drops. So the value of fiat money depends on supply and demand? Exactly, replies the wise man. That's why the currency of strong economies, like the US dollar, has a higher value because more people want it. At the same time, the currency of weak economies, such as Yugoslavia, where there was hyperinflation, is worth much less because no one, not even the people themselves, want to buy it. How then is the exchange rate of a currency determined today? There are two main types of exchange rates. Fixed exchange rate, when the government sets a rigid ratio between the national and foreign currency. For example, if the US fixed that $1 equals Yugoslavian dinar. Floating exchange rate, determined by the market through the buying and selling of currency. Do most countries use a floating exchange rate? Yes, it allows the economy to be more flexible. Floating exchange rates are influenced by several factors. Economic stability. A strong economy attracts investors. They buy the national currency for investment, increasing its value. Interest rates. High deposit rates can attract foreign capital, strengthening the currency. Inflation. High inflation reduces the purchasing power of a currency and its value falls relative to other currencies. This explains why in countries with hyperinflation, like the former Yugoslavia or Venezuela, the national currency depreciates in value. If you want to know more about inflation, let me know in the comments and I'll make a separate video on the topic. Next is the political situation. A stable political environment makes a country attractive for investment, strengthening its currency. Mr. Wealth begins to understand how the mechanism and exchange rates work. Back home, Mr. Wealth explains to his daughter in simple words. Mr. Wealth feels satisfied. Not only has he helped his daughter, but he himself has expanded his knowledge of how the world economy and the history of money works. There are tons of interesting topics that we didn't touch on, but they are very important. What is inflation, or why can't you just print a lot of money? If you are interested in these topics, write in the comments.